Kakadosh Boker Or. Mishnah, this is Daf Yomi, Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph 13a1. We're just going to start on Yud Bet Amud Bet on the bottom. I'm Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel says Rabbi Shmuel. We're not going to make a nibur shana lemken hayta tkufa chasera ruba shel chodesh tishri, which means that we're not going to make the nibur shana unless you're going to have the majority. Right, that's what it says here. Hayta tkufa, the tkufa of the kites is going to be lacking, right, 91 days, which is going to be the majority of the month of Tishri. V'kama ruba shel chodesh, how much is the ruba shel chodesh? Shisha asar yom, 16 days. 16 days is the majority of the month. So if you're going to, these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef comes and he says, no, echad ve'esrim yom, you need 21 days. Which means if the tkufat stav started ve'esrim ve'echad le'tishri, which means it still didn't pass the 21st of Tishri, they're not going to make a Yibur Shana. But if it started before that, that means from the 22nd and onwards, Ma'abrim et Shana. And therefore they're going to push off the Chag HaSukkot bechodesh, utkufat stav is going to start in Elul before the Chag. Now they both learned it from the same pasuk. What does that mean? They both expounded it from one pasuk. Chag HaAsif tekufat Shana. What does that mean now, Chag HaAsif tekufat Shana? He says the Torah is going to be kovea v'zman asif inside of the Chag, which is going to be Chol Moed. So more savar, one of them holds kule Chag ba'inan b'tkufa chadasha. You need the entire Chag in the new tekufa, meaning you need fall, that you need the entire Chag to be in the fall. Okay, umor savar, and the other one holds miksat Chag ba'inan b'tkufa chadasha. Only part of the Chag needs to be in the new tekufa. Okay, you have a Gemara? Yeah, okay, good. Fine. So says the Gemara, Maika Savre, right? He says, what do they hold exactly? Ika Savre, if you're going to tell me Yom Tkufa Gomer, that the day of the Tkufa of Tishri is going to finish, right, the old Tkufa, Belava Chanami, so therefore, even without his words, I understand that. Lo leman da'amar kule chag ika, right? Velo leman da'amar mitzat chag ika. So according to this, you don't have, not according to the mandamar, that you have the entire chag, or even part of the chag. But rather, Yom Tkufa Matchil. The day of the Tkufa is going to start, right? And therefore, according to him, since we're going to say that it's going to start, it's a completely different halacha over here. Okay? Fine. So, Meitve. So, we're going to ask the following question. Yom Tkufa Gomer, Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Yom Tkufa Matchil. So, here you see Mefurash, right? According to Shemuel and Rabbi Yehuda, right? What happens? He says all of the Chol Moed has to be in the new Tkufa. Number one. Number two, Yom Tkufa is going to start. The question is, here it says Yom Tkufa Gomer. This is Shitat Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yosef says it's Matchil. So it's here, you just told me that Yom Tkufa is Matchil. Here it's telling you, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Yom Tkufa is Gomer. It's finishing. It's not starting yet. We also learned another braita. You're only going to make it, and you're not going to make a nibu shana unless you have that the majority of the month is going to be like that. What is that the majority of the month? We had a machloket, Rabbi Yehuda, right? That he says 16 days, right? And right, he says shisha asar yom, right? That's 16 days. Rabbi Yehuda says shtei yadot b'chodesh, 2 yadot in chodesh. How much is exactly shtei yadot in the chodesh? So he comes and he says, right? How much is exactly shtei yadot in the chodesh? Esrim yom, 20 days. So he comes and he says, Rabbi Yosef comes and he says, mechashvin, we're going to be mechashvin, right? We're going to come and we're going to calculate shisha asar lifnei Pesach, 16 days before the Pesach, right? Ume'aberin, and we're going to make it an ibur shana, shisha asar, right? Lifnei Chag. We're talking about now 16 days before the Chag, yeah? And then he comes and he says, 16 days before the Chag, Emabrin. Rabbi Shimon says, Av Shisha Asar Lifnei Chag, even the 16 days before the Chag, right? Me'aberin, we are going to be me'aber, right? The Chodesh, right? So he says, Acherim Omrim, and other people come and they say, Ve'kama miuto, how much is the miut? He comes and he says, Arba Asar Yom, 14 days. Okay? 14 days is the miut, obviously. So Kashya, so he comes and he says, it's a question. So he comes and he says like this. Amar More says, Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, Shtei yadot b'chodesh esrim yom. When we're talking about now 2 yadot in the chodesh, it's going to be 20 days. Rabbi Yosef says, Mechashvin shisha asar yom lifnei Pesach, right? Ume'abrin. What does that mean? If the tkufat hachoref is going to be until the 16th of Nisan, we're going to make it into a leap year. Okay, because then again, you have tkufat hakayitz is going to be until the 21st of Tishri, and therefore it's going to work out that way. So says the Gemara, Hainu Rabbi Yehuda, it's the same thing as Rabbi Yehuda. So answers the Gemara, Yom Tkufa gover v'Yom Tkufa matchile kebenayu. So we're talking, the machloket is that when is the Yom Tkufa? Is that finishing or starting it off? Okay, what does that mean exactly? So he says, right? You guys remember we said that? Do we say that the first day of the Tkufa is starting the next Chag, or is it that it's finishing the previous one? So Amar more says, Shishasa lifnei Chag. If it's going to be 16 days before the Chag and Me'abrin, we're not going to make any Bushana. But according to Rabbi Yosef, that he says Shishasa lifnei Chag udelo hashiv saber temnesa. But if it's going to be 17 or 18, we are going to be making it ibur shana. Ve'amar, but we said Shishasa lifnei Pesach in batzilo. Only if it's going to be 60 days before Pesach, yes. If it's going to be 17, no. So says the Gemara, no. Idi, according to everybody, we're not going to make it an ibur shana. The ID the Tana Reisha Shasa Lifnei Pesach. Since we already learned 16 days before Pesach, we also learned 16 days before the Chag. Okay, Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, even 16 days before the Chag, we are going to be me'abrin. So Hainu Tanakama, that's like a Tanakama. So Yud Gimel Amubet 13b. So says the Gemara, Ika Benayu, the difference between them is going to be Yom Tkufa Matchil, Yom Tkufa Gomer. Do we say that Yom Tkufa is finishing the old Tkufa, or is it starting the new Tkufa? Right? One of them holds that he's starting the new Tkufa, and therefore, as long as Tkufat Tishri is going to be on the 16th of the month, which is the first day of Chol Moed, so therefore the stuff is starting, and therefore it's going to be okay, and you don't have to be Me'aber Shana. According to the other one, you do. Velo Mesaimem, but we did not have, right? There's no siman in the Braita to know which Shita holds of what. Okay, so Acherim Omrim, Acherim come and they say, Miuto, it has to be the minority of the month. How much is the minority? 14 days. If you have a 30-day month, right? So it's a 14 is going to be the minority. My kasavre, what do you hold? Ikasavre Yom Tkufa Gomer. If you're going to tell me now that Yom Tkufa is going to finish it off, Vekule Chag Ba'inan, and you need the entire Chag, which means you need all of Chol Moed in the same Tkufa. Haika, you have it already. Samar Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, Shmuel Bar Yitzchak, Acherim Bitkufat Nisan Tkaime. The other people, they're going in the Shita of Tkufat Nisan. Right? Dichtiv, it says in the Pasuk, Shamor et Chodesh Aviv, Shamor Aviv, Shel Tkufa Shehi Bechodesh Nisan. You have to watch the Chodesh Aviv. When it says here you're going to watch the Chodesh Aviv, it means you have to watch the Aviv in the Tkufa, which is going to be Chodesh Nisan. So says the Gemara, V'liabre le'adar. Why don't we just make it into a Chodesh Haibur of Adar? So Amar Ravacha Bar Yaakov, says Ravacha Bar Yaakov, Tana min mala lemata kachashiv. The Tana, which is basically called Acherim, he's coming, he's going to be machshiv, the numbers, right, from upwards to downwards. What does that mean? Hachi kaman. Ve'ad miuto me'abrin. Until the miut, you are going to be me'aberet hashana. How much is miuto? Arba'asar yom. 14 days. So it comes out that if right now the kufat hachoref is going to go into Nisan, half of the month and more, which means, for example, let's say 18, 19, 20, whatever it is. So what's going to happen? Me'abrim et hashana. But if it's only going to be until the 14th, then no. Because again, if it's going until the middle of the Nisan, so for automatically it's going to go into the middle of Tishri, because each season you're pushing off. So if this season is going to go into the 16, 17, 18 of Nisan, that's the tkufat of the Nisan of the one of the Choref. So what happens? So you're pushing off the next season. So then when it comes to Tishri, it's going to also be later on. Okay. If it's 15, no, he said it was 16, 17, 18. Or he said even more, right? Yes, you have a minimum. He says you need more than that. Okay? So he comes and he says, right, as follows. Ravina Amar, Ravina comes and he says, Le'olam acherim fi betishri kaime. Really, be'emet, we could explain that the acherim we're talking about in Tukufat Tishri. And they hold acherim kule chag ba'inav yom tov rishon. He says the reason why they're going to come and they're going to say you have to be ma'aberet hashana is according to them you need that the entire chag, even yom tov rishon, meaning not only just chol moed, even yom tov rishon has to be in the same tkufa, in the new tkufa. Okay, which means that according to that, if it's going to be in the old tkufa, it's a problem. So then you're going to be ma'aberet hashana in order to make sure that it's going to be in the new tkufa. Yom tov rishon. Why? He says Chag Ha'asif Ktiv. What's written by Sukkot? Sukkot is called Chag Ha'asif. What does that mean? Chag Haba Bizman Asifa. He says this is going to be the Chag which is going to come during the time of the gathering, right? But Be'emet, all the Chag, even the Yom Tov Rishon, has to be in the Tkufa Chadasha, which means that's when you start gathering the grains. Meaning, if you're going to do it too early, it's in the previous season. So it has to be in the next season as well. Okay, in the season that they're gathering the grains. Fine, 2 dots. Okay, simichat zekenim. Yes. Simichat zekenim. Okay, we're going to now talk about the simichat zekenim. If you remember, we were talking about the simichat zekenim has to be done with 3 dayanim. These are the words of Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Yudah says with 5. Simichat zekenim was when the zekenim are going to come, they're going to lean on the animal, on the par helem davar shel tzibur, that they didn't realize that they made a mistake, and they passed into the tzibur a certain halacha. So therefore now they have to come and they have to bring a sacrifice. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a braita. V'samechu zikneh. What does it mean now? V'samechu zikneh. Yachol zikneh ashuk. I would have thought to say that we're talking about now the dayanim, which are going to be in the shuk, in the marketplace. Tamulumar eida. What does that mean? It says eida. So it has to be zikneh Sanhedrin, not stam. Meaning when you say zaken, you could get some amaretz. It's a zaken. So no. Right? Exactly. It's not only just a shisha. It has to be, right, somebody that's smart. It has to be a person of Sanhedrin. So he says, eida. If you're going to tell me it's Zeda, Yachol Ktane Eda. So anyway, it could be Sanedre Ktana. Talunumar Zikne Ha'eda. The Miuchadin Shebaeda. Meaning it has to be the Zekenim of the 71. Because remember, the 71, that's like the Supreme Court. That's a higher court. So therefore, the Zekenim, the ones which reach the 71, are on a higher level than the Dayanim that reach the 23. Right? They are the ones that appoint the judges of the 23. Right? And the same thing, the 23 are the ones that are going to appoint the individual judges of the 3. So therefore, what happens is that the ones of regular Dayanim are the lowest level. Then it goes up to the level of 23 Dayanim. And then it goes up to the level of 71 Dayanim. So each one has levels, right, of which one? Yeah, 100%. Okay, fine. The Kamahen. So how much are they? You said V'samechu. How much is Samechu? Shnaim. Zikne, Shnaim. Ve'em betin shakul. Now, we don't have betin shakul. If you just told me the Samechu is plural, minimum plural is 2. And it also said Zikne. Zikne is also plural. Minimum plural is 2. And you can have betin shakul. You can never have equal. So from Muslim level echad, you always add a 1. And therefore you can have 5. And those are the words of Rabbi Yudah. Rabbi Shimon comes and he says Zikne is Shnaim. Ve'em betin shakul. So Muslim level echad, therefore you have 3. So says the Gemara, yeah, but according to Rabbi Shimon, it does say V'aktiv. It's written V'samechu. Why is it that according to Rabbi Yudah, you said he used v'samechu and ziknei? Ziknei is minimum 2. Samechu is minimum 2. 4. Em bedin shakul, 5. Right? You add another 1, it becomes 5. Why is it that according to Rabbi Shimon, he only used the term, right, ziknei? And therefore it's 2. Em bedin shakul, you have 1 more, you have 3. Why? So he says, Ha'umi baile legufo. You need it for itself. Meaning, right? How do you know? V'samechu means you have to lean. How do you know you have to lean? Because it said v'samechu. So I'm not going to learn from v'samechu how many dayanim you need. Because v'samechu, I need to learn that you have to lean. If something's extra, then I could come and I could say, you know what? Why did I have to say this? So therefore I'm coming in and saying, okay, fine. So it's coming to teach you that it's coming to teach you minimum of 2, right? Because it's plural. But if not, you don't need that. Rabbi Yudah, and according to Rabbi Yudah legufei, he says you don't need it. Why? If so, just say ziknei eda yidem al rosh hapar. Right? They just said you don't have to write down v'samechu ziknei eda. Even without that, ziknei eda yidem right yidem al rosh hapar, and that's already you know that they're going to be somech on them, and then that's it. Rabbi Shimon, but according to Rabbi Shimon, iktivach, if it was written like this, havamina, I would have thought to say my al. What does it mean now? Al rosh hapar b'samuch. If it wasn't written the semicha, I would have thought to say it's beside it, not on top of it. Because since it wasn't written anything, so I would have thought to say, listen, beside it, as long as they're beside it, that's all that they have to do. For Rabbi Yudah, but according to Rabbi Yudah, he learns Gzera Shava. Gamar Rosh Rosh Me'olah. He's learning Gzera Shava Rosh Rosh from the Olah. Meaning, since it says Samach Yado al Rosh HaOlah, and then just like over there it says Rosh, so to here is Rosh means, Mamash, you're doing it on the head. Rabbi Shimon, but he doesn't learn Go Gamar Rosh Rosh Me'olah. He doesn't learn it. Why? Because obviously if he didn't, it's not Panui, or he didn't learn it from his rabbi, so therefore he does not learn the Gzera Shava, and therefore obviously you do not learn like that. Fine. Next, Tana, we learned to the Braita. Semicha usmichat zekenim bishlosha. Semichat zekenim is going to be with 3. What does it mean, semicha? And what is semichat zekenim? Rabbi Yochanan mismach sabe. We're talking about to do semicha to call somebody a rabbi. So that's called the semicha, right? That we're talking about. The semichat zekenim is on the animal, and the semicha, getting semicha, is making somebody into a rabbi. So Elmaleh Abai Rav Yosef says about Rav Yosef, mismach sabe bishlosha minalan. How do you know that you need the semichat zekenim with 3? If you're going to tell me because it's written v'yismoch yadav alav, you're going to do semicha on him. It should be enough with one. If you're going to tell me Moshe bimkom 71 kai, that Moshe is going to be instead of 71. So then you should need 71. So answers the Gemara, Kashya, you're right. It's a very, very good question. Meaning we don't have an answer, right, to this, according to this. Because if you're going to tell me now it's Moshe instead of the 71, so what does that mean? So that means you should need the 71. So Amale Ravacha Bered Rav Ravashi says Ravacha, right, the son of Rava to Rashi, Biadam Mamash Samchile. He says, what? Do you really think that the Dainim come and they put their hands on top of the head of the person? Amale, he says, Samchile Bishma. Somchim oto with Kriyat Shem, which means Kadile Rebbe, Viavele Reshuta Lemeidan Niknasot. They call him Rabbi. They call him Rebbe. And once they call him Rebbe, they give him permission to come and to start judging Dinei Knasot. So says the Gemara, V'chalo Samich, one can't do it. V'amar Rav Yehuda Rav, Beram, Zachur oto Aish Tov, and his name was Rav Yehuda ben Bava, Shilmaleu, Nishtachu Dinei Knasot Yisrael. Nishtachu? What do you mean Nishtachu? They would have forgotten Knasot. Nigrosinhu. Right? We would have brought it back. But rather, he says, no. Batlu the Dinei Knasot Yisrael. Because basically, if you're going to tell me now that it had to be 3, how did he do it? How did he put it back? And obviously, we're going to see now, right, a good story.